Congressman. Good morning. We're happy you're here with us. Baltimore, Maryland, a city not unused to the problems, the dilemmas, the sadness, the violence that occurs with gun trafficking. Talk about the issue with regard to your city and what you want to do about gun trafficking.
Well, I just left my home, which is located in the inner city of Baltimore, and I can tell you that in areas like where I live, they tell me, the young kids tell me they can get a gun just as fast as they can get a cigarette if they have the right amount of money. And basically, we have a situation today where more and more people who are have been convicted of a felony and who are literally barred from having a gun are getting them through what we call straw purchasers. In other words, they'll go to a girlfriend or a friend who has no record, get them to buy the gun, they'll go through the background check, and the next thing you know, they may buy 60, 70 guns in a matter of 2 or 3 months, and then they ship them off or send them to other areas, like urban areas. And we've seen that over and over again. We just saw a case like that in Oakland, where they were finding guns that were actually coming from rural Georgia. Come to find out, there was a person who was going through this straw purchasing, sending the guns to rural Georgia, to Oakland, an urban area, and those guns were being sold and distributed to gang members. And so basically what our law does, and by the way, we have bipartisan support in the House for this bill. We have over 100 co-sponsors. Basically it says that, you know, when a straw purchaser goes out there and does that, they're no longer going to be limited to a fine, almost like you're speeding at 65 in a 55-mile zone. No more of that. The penalty is going to be increased substantially. And right now, there is no a federal law dedicated to gun trafficking. That is, that when that straw purchaser buys that gun and then turns it over to either somebody who they know should not have a gun, or forbidden for having a gun, or cartels in Mexico or what have you, now there will be a law against not only the straw purchaser, but the person who is receiving the gun and any kingpins that might be involved in that. And so, again, this is something that law enforcement has asked for. As a matter of fact, as you know, I'm the ranking member of the Government Reform Committee, and the request literally came from the ATF agents saying they wanted stronger straw purchasing penalties, and they also wanted a trafficking law.
So, Congressman, I'm going to assume that you're talking about the I-95 gun trail, that people buy the guns wholesale down south, further south in Baltimore. They come up I-95, they come into Baltimore. What happens if someone comes into Baltimore City with a trunk full of guns? They get pulled over for the headlight being out. They pop the trunk. There's a trunk full of guns. What happens under federal statute right now to the person driving that car with the trunk full of guns?
If those guns are properly registered, they have no problem.
Wow.
If those guns are properly, in other words, if they were properly purchased, they have no problem.
What does properly purchased entail?
That is that if they have gone through the background check, and they find out that this guy is not a felon, and they trace the guns and discover that they were maybe even if they were bought by somebody else, as long as that person has a legal right to have those guns, and it depends on what state he's coming from, he has no problem.
Congressman, as you pointed out, you've got some provisions that have the support of House Republicans, but most House Republicans are against what you're for. Mayor Bloomberg of New York City's got millions of dollars he's willing to spend. He's doing some on television ads. If he had asked you what else should he spend his millions on to try to affect how Congress will vote, what would you tell him to spend it on?
I would definitely say background checks, and also I would love for him to spend it on the assault weapons ban and the high-capacity clips.
What should he spend the money on? Television advertising or something else?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think he should spend it on advertising and helping some of those candidates that may be fearing the attacks of the NRA by bringing some balance and saying, look, I'm going to support you, like he supported the young lady in Chicago. I think that the NRA has made it clear that they are going to fight almost anything that comes out with regard to controlling guns in any way. But I was very pleased to hear the head of the NRA this weekend on your network, on Meet the Press, say that he was for increasing the penalties on straw purchasers and having some type of effective trafficking law. So that's a good sign. That's the first time I've heard him say something like that. And perhaps he and I will meet, and we can join forces to get at least this piece done. I keep telling folks that this is a transformational moment. When Sandy Hook took place, I can't think of too much that should cause people to say, look, you know, we cannot continue to go down this road without making a difference and without doing something different. And if we don't act now, I don't know when we're going to act. I don't know what the next tragedy, I don't know what can be too much worse than that. But by the way, in the inner cities of our nation, I mean, we're seeing this kind of gun violence, not on a mass scale, but on a day-to-day scale. And so Sandy Hook showed in one particular situation 20 young children dying and being shot at close range. But this kind of, sadly, violence is taking place all over our country.
Walter Isaacson.
Well, I think that's a good point the congressman just made, which is even on the same day as Sandy Hook, when 20 kids are killed, more than 30 are killed, as they are every day, by gun violence just in the cities. And we don't. I was down walking with Mitch Landrieu, mayor of New Orleans, about 4 or 5 days ago, and he said that's the great epidemic. He has binders, 189 kids in the folders showing the boom, boom, boom of guns, and it's something that has to be attacked at all levels. It's not just a gun thing; it's a violence thing, it's a culture thing. I think we're going to need, and this is where Bloomberg can come in, I think Mayor Bloomberg's doing a great job, is a sea change in attitude towards violence and guns in the inner city. And I think by doing his advertising campaign, he's trying to make that social transformation that we saw in gay marriage, that we saw in smoking.
Yeah, well, you know, the sad part about it is that, you know, my nephew, a 20-year-old Old Dominion student, down in Norfolk, was killed 5 o'clock in the morning. Somebody busted in his room to rob him, shot him dead. And here's a guy, was a 3.5 junior, rising junior. And to see that life snuffed out like that, I can tell you, I had been to many funerals of young people in my district and in my state who have been killed through gun violence, but there's nothing like being on the side of it where it's a family member. And what I've learned is that there's a force out there right now of a whole lot of people who are experiencing this. In other words, they have relatives, they have friends, and that force, I think, will continue to march forward. As you can see, the people, the parents at Sandy Hook, they are committed to this, to making a difference. And I've often said that, you know, out of your pain comes your passion to do your purpose. And I think that there are more and more people who are in pain, and that force is going to go against forces like the NRA.
Hey, Congressman, before we let you go, I have to talk about something that occurred a while ago, the Super Bowl. The Ravens win the Super Bowl. And, you know, after every Super Bowl, they get the NFL players come on and say, hey, I'm going to Disney World, or I'm going to Disneyland or something. But Torrey Smith, Baltimore Ravens, he stood up and said, hey, I'm going to work for Elijah Cummings. Tell us about that.
First of all, he's a wonderful young man. We got a call from Torrey saying that he wanted to not use his time. He wanted to use his time wisely in the off season. He came, he sat, and for over the last month, he comes in for about 4 or 5 hours a day. He works on a lot of foreclosure cases because we spend a lot of time on foreclosures. He's helped with all kinds of casework, and he's been absolutely wonderful. Keep in mind, he went to the University of Maryland at College Park. Yeah. So he really, I mean, I have so much admiration for him. And one of the things he said to me, he said, Congressman, I don't want any press conferences. You know, I don't want people to even know I'm here. I just want to do this because I think it's very important. And I've been so pleased to have him.
No press conferences. He's clearly not interested in politics then.
We'll keep it secret. We won't talk about it again.
Congressman Elijah Cummings, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.